And welcome back, episode 26 of the Paws Up podcast. We are back better than ever after, I believe, a 2-week hiatus is what we went with, Jake. And we're coming back banging. I mean, we have a very special guest with us. We are with FIU baseball head coach Rich Witten. Coach Witten, thank you for the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Glad to have you here. That intro video fired me up already. I'm ready for some FIU athletics coming soon because that's a great video, man. Some good hype people in there. So I love to see what you guys got going on.
Hell yeah, we're all hyped up because, like Kevin said, we had a bit of R&R for a couple of weeks, but we were brainstorming during that time, and Kevin and I, and of course our good friend Jonathan Mayer, we've come up with some great ideas, and we thought, well, who better to get back on track with than the man himself from FIU baseball, and of course we've already talked to quite a fair share of players on the team, of course Alex Sanchez and the Rhino, so. Let's talk to the big man himself.
Yeah, I'm fired up, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
Johnny, what's up?
Nothing much. Just in Orlando, finishing off strong. But, yeah, good summer thus far.
Yeah, so I think we just got to get going right away, Coach, and just talk a little bit about yourself before we even just get into FIU. So when you were growing up in Kentucky, when was that moment that, you're like, this is what I want to do. I want to play baseball, and, obviously, the coaching part comes later on in your career, I would assume.
Yeah, sure. I think, growing up in a small town in Kentucky, I don't think we were too specialized in sports back then, where it was as crazy as it is now with, specializing in travel ball and different types of training that you see a lot of times right now. So I played every sport that I could possibly, play growing up. If it was, a tennis racket or a golf club or, a basketball, football, soccer ball. Obviously baseball ended up working out, well for myself as what my whole life has been involved with. But, I grew up like I said, in Kentucky and played basketball, football, and baseball in high school. I ended up playing just football and baseball my last 3 years in high school. And, but, I came from a family of people that played sports, enjoyed sports, were athletic and loved being outside. My sister was actually, a tennis player at the University of Kentucky. And so, it was a lot of traveling for our family, growing up to different tournaments and, but that, I think the decision to coach certainly kind of came later in my career, but, I loved all sports. I loved competition. I loved the brotherhood behind it. I loved the life lessons that you learn, through playing even different sports other than baseball. I think when I played quarterback on the high school football team, and I think you learn leadership skills. I think you learn communication skills. I think you're around different types of people. You're around different styles of coaches. And so, you get opportunities for a lot of different people to help mold and form the way you want to be as a player. And then ultimately, what I've now become as a coach as well. So, I love being, well-rounded, being versed in different sports and different types of, leadership styles and roles. So that's a little bit about the background and growing up in Kentucky.
Yeah, I saw that. Danville All-State quarterback. So did you throw left-handed or right-handed? First thing I need to know, Rich.
Righty all the way.
Righty.
Yeah,
okay.
Right all the way.
When you have a title of All-State quarterback, what made you choose baseball? Was it a coin toss or what ultimately made you decide baseball is what I'm going to pursue?
Yeah, I think baseball was something that I had really just done my entire life. It was truly second nature. I actually picked up football a little bit later in life. I think it was like seventh grade. I started playing football and, really fell in love with the sport. So truthfully, I think I was probably just better at baseball and had more opportunities at it. So that may have been where my initial decisions came from. But I love football. I love high school football. There's something special about it. And obviously, I love college and pro football as well, and love what Coach Mack and the boys at FIU are doing. But when you're playing high school football in a small town and it's Friday night lights and you're there with your buddies and the whole town shows up, it's a fun event, special memory that you have. I played for two state championships in high school football, so some really, really fun memories of playing those days, and the teammates and the brotherhood that comes along with it. I think is probably a little bit different than most of the other sports out there. So I love football, but I was just a little bit better at baseball, and so I think that kind of dictated some of my, paths and career choices as well. But, baseball was something that I can, my first memories include baseball. My first memories in life include, running and catching balls in the backyard or throwing it as far as you can into a cornfield or hitting the ball off of a tee and chasing it and running it down. So I think baseball really is a sport that's become second nature to me from some of my earliest memories.
Right. So going a bit into some college baseball, of course, for playing for the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, and throughout your I believe 5 years spent there, over 200 games played, 193 hits, and 17 home runs. Some pretty good stats. And I just got to know off the top of your head, what do you think was your marquee game with your time in Coastal Carolina?
Yeah, that I can still see the vivid memories from this game that I'll tell you about. It was in a regional championship game in 2010. We hosted a regional and we're the number 1 seed, and we were actually in the final championship game. It was us versus the College of Charleston. Each team had 1 loss, so the winner moved on to super regionals. I remember the at-bat in the moment that'll certainly stick out most in my head. It was a bases loaded. We were down by 2 in the 6th inning. It was bases loaded, 1 out, got a 0-0 hanging slider and hit a grand slam to put the team up by 2, late in the game there. And we went on to win that game and move on to super regionals. And there were a lot of fun memories that went along with that game because the game ended up getting tied back up. And there was a crazy play to actually, finish the game. It was, there was 2 outs and a runner on third base, bottom of the 9th, and a ground ball actually deflected off our pitcher's glove. Shortstop came up, barehanded it. If that run scores, the game's over. They go to super regionals. The shortstop barehanded it. I was playing first base. I dove up the line to hold the base, held the base, bang, bang play. Umpire called him out. I think almost every coach on Charleston's staff got tossed on the call, and our team erupted into celebration. We do have picture and video evidence to prove the umpire got it right. I'll go to my grave and say the umpire got it right. There may be some coaching friends of mine that are still in the game that we talk about that play sometimes with, but we ended up actually winning that game in the 10th inning and went on the super regional. So. Very fun and memorable game for sure from my playing career.
Yep.
And one thing that I saw, Coach, is obviously 200 games, but you started your freshman year as a pitcher. You threw 5 innings against Virginia Tech, ironically. And what was that like? I know you're a 2A guy, and then what was transition like to become an only hitter after pitching in your first freshman season?
Yeah, I loved pitching. I loved, the competition and the control of the game that you have when the ball's in your hand on the mound. I enjoyed the style and the mentality that I had as a pitcher because I was a little bit of a position player pitching. So, there were certainly, plenty of intensity on the mound, I think, when I was out there. Lots of energy and very animated and emotional as a pitcher. Kind of having a position player background, but I loved pitching, and I did. I true freshman year, I started that game on opening weekend on the mound. And just truthfully, it was a situation where injury setback after injury setback became too much to overcome, and really got faced with the decision. In my career, I'll try and keep the story as brief as possible, but it has shaped, who I was as a player. It shaped who I am as a person. It's shaped the kind of mentality I think you can understand a different perspective when you go through something like this. After my freshman year, I was having a lot of lingering arm problems. Ended up finding out that I had a torn labrum in my shoulder. Got that repaired. Which anyone who's been through that in your shoulder knows that's it's a grueling rehab and a longer rehab process. I was about 13 months out of that surgery and found out that, through the back end of that throwing program and rehab that I'd actually torn my UCL in my elbow. And so I was faced with, a real career altering decision where I was either going to have another surgery, be out another, 10 to 18 months and fix the UCL. Or rehab it as good as possible and become more of an isolated position player. as a 19 or 20-year-old, having to make decisions like that can, really change your outlook on the game, and really it can certainly change your perspective on things. And it also it's a huge point of adversity to go through. At that time in your life, I've always, I think, when you compete at high level athletics, most of your life, you're always, for instance, Rich Witten, the baseball player, or, Jonny Smith, the baseball player, or the football player. That's a real part of your identity. And when you go through adversity like that, you do tend to lose sight of, a little bit who I am, and, what am I about? What do I have other than baseball? What else do I have, other than this game that I love so much? And, how else do I identify myself with, as a son, or, a brother, now a husband, things like that. I think it does give you some perspective early on in your life, about different types of adversity that can come your way. And I was faced with that. And I love the game too much. I'm a ball player. I loved pitching, but I couldn't sit out another year. If I had any other option to get back out onto the playing field, I wanted to take advantage of that. So rehab my arm the best I could, and kind of played through that for the next, 3 years with, a repaired shoulder, but, a bum elbow at times. And, so that's the story behind that. But I loved pitching. Got some tough breaks on the injury side of it, but everything happens for a reason. And looking back, I feel probably more equipped to be a head coach than I can have ever imagined, because I have such experience on both sides of the baseball. Obviously, I've spent more time on the coaching and development side with hitters, with infielders, with catchers. But I do understand a lot of times what goes into the pitching side, and maybe mentalities that can come behind it. So I do think there's a unique perspective that can come out of that as well, because most head coaches come up as kind of either or, and maybe, they lack for some feel in the opposite area that maybe they're more familiar with and have experience in. So I think that's given me a nice perspective as I've become a head coach over the last year.
Yeah.
Can you talk about coaching? When did you, in your baseball playing career, thought that, coaching is a possibility down the long term for you?
Yeah, when I got a call from Kevin Schnall asking if I wanted to do it, that I hadn't ever really thought about it. I think I had just turned 23. I had just graduated, was playing pro ball, and actually was calling a former coach of mine and a friend of mine now to congratulate him on a new position. And while on the phone call congratulating him on the new position, he mentioned that there was an opening there on that staff for the director of operations. He felt like that was something that I would be good at if I was interested in it. And I kind of got off the call and once again had a moment where there were some major life decisions to make. And did I want to start a coaching career? Did I want to try and continue playing? And obviously, I did end up taking the job. And certainly the rest is history. So we can walk through any of that stuff. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do other than play baseball. And so when I'd always wanted to. Academics were important to me. Both my parents were teachers. I actually had them both in school. One was an English teacher and one was a science teacher. So came from a family where education was prioritized. Always wanted to strive to make good grades and take advantage of the degree that I was going to get. But, when it came down to really what I wanted to do with it, I couldn't say that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And when I had some conversations about getting into coaching, it was a great opportunity and something I wanted to explore, and really have fallen in love with it ever since.
So you get into coaching for a couple of years, you go to VCU, you're their hitting coach, and all of a sudden FIU needs a new head coach. So just talk us through the process of how they got to you and just the process of, eventually now becoming the head coach of FIU baseball.
Mm-hmm. I think FIU, first of all, in my first year, I'm absolutely loving it. Okay. I love the program. I love the area. I love this university. The people I work with, the administration on campus. I just, my wife and I and our new family are just absolutely in love with South Florida, in love with Miami. And I'm having a blast. I really am. It's been fantastic and just very memorable first season, and just can't wait to get into it more. So really enjoying it. But really, when it came down to, becoming the next, head coach, interviewing for the head position, I think, I think anyone that's familiar with Miami, familiar with South Florida, familiar with FIU understands that it does have its own unique pros and cons at FIU. And unless you've lived in South Florida or lived in Miami, recruited South Florida, recruited the state in general. Been around Miami baseball, been around local fans, been around local alumni. Unless you have been in this area for some amount of time and have familiarity and have relationships, there are specifics to this job that are both pros and cons. And I felt like my experience, certainly uniquely qualified me, to understand a lot of, kind of what goes on behind the scenes with what needs to be, with what needs to happen here at FIU for this program to be successful, and what needs to get better, what areas can we improve in, so I felt like I had a unique experience of having, a Miami baseball experience and background where I was very comfortable in this area, very comfortable recruiting the players that we're going to get here, and very comfortable in a lot of ways, but also, was enough of an outsider to bring a new vision into the program and to bring new ideas in and to maybe, lead in a different way that can really relate to the players the way that we need them to relate. So I felt like I was someone who was very uniquely qualified to, have some outside and new ideas, and a very firm belief system and how I wanted to run a program, but also, the comfortability and experience and being in Miami before and spending a lot of time here recruiting in Florida in general. So it was a really attractive opportunity for me because, I've always loved South Florida. I love Miami. When I lived here in the past, I always hoped for a chance to come back to this area and to stay in the game while doing it. So, it's been an unbelievable experience and very, very, very grateful and very blessed for it every day. And really, there's not a day that goes by that, that I don't realize how lucky and fortunate I am to be a part of this program and a part of the athletic department.
So we go through your first season at FIU. You end up with a 21-34 overall record, 8-22 in the conference. Now that you've had a couple months to kind of reassess, just your overall thoughts on your first season with FIU.
Sure. Well, that'll never be our goal. That record will never be our goal. Our vision and our future has our sights set very, certainly higher, than that record. But I am very proud of what we did in our first year, because it's you have to speak in terms of relevance and where we started and where we got to. And when I look at where the program started from the day one as head coach and who we had coming back and who we had coming into it, to where we got to in August, and then where we got to in November. Really, I think it was a very process oriented fall. It was a very culture driven fall. It was a very standard driven fall. And so really installing the things that were going to be most important to us, what we were going to prioritize, how we were going to go about our work, what kind of teammates we were going to be, what kind of students we were going to be, really implementing all of those philosophical ideas that are going to be important to your program and that you want to make sure your players understand and know in your program. That's really, something I was proud of that we were able to, implement pretty much from August to November. It started in the weight room, with having great culture, great energy in the weight room. It translates onto the field, having great, player development systems that we meet a high standard with every single day, learning how to work, learning, that extra time is necessary, for us to get where we want to go, whether it's hitting, whether it's pitching, whether it's on the physicality side of things. So, really implementing the standard that what we needed to do and how we needed to do it every single day was something that was really important into the fall. And that I was very proud of the fall that we had and where we got to. Moving into the springtime, I think we had, we did some first early in the season. We had a couple of ranked wins, that were huge ranked wins. We had the longest winning streak the program's had. And I think, Jonathan may be able to quote me on it, but I think the longest winning streak in 5 or 6 years. We had that early in the season. Okay, there we go. See, I knew you'd have it.
Yeah.
You're my stat guy, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So we had a great start to the season, and I think it was very rewarding for the players to they bought in, better than I could ever have hoped for in the fall, and for them to see some success come their way early in the season. I was just really, really happy for them, because we were a new staff and they were a new team. We were new to each other. I was new to them and they were new to me. And so, we really did a great job throughout the fall, making some huge improvements. And so it was really, really rewarding to see them, commit to a new staff, a new group of people, a new way of doing things, and then see them get rewarded for it early in the season were some really, really fun memories of mine. And obviously, we're going to keep taking steps in the right direction from an overall record standpoint. But, we did things in the program that haven't been done in the last couple of years. I'm very proud of. I know just from 22 to 23, our RPI, nationwide RPI jumped, I think, almost 90 points nationally. Just in 1 year from a strength of schedule, win standpoint, things like that. So that was huge for our program and our team. And, so very, very proud of what we were able to do in year one, but, very, very far away from being satisfied, or that being the standard of where we're going to go to. I expect, I expect the biggest jump, to be coming in the very near future for the program.
Yeah. So, as you had mentioned, that season featured a lot of ups and a lot of downs as well. But I'm just curious, if you had to pick out one game from that season in which you were most proud of your guys and the overall resilience of the team, what would it have been? Like the defining game of the FIU Panthers in 2022?
Yeah, I think it was in a walk-off win against Harvard. I think it was, the fourth weekend of the year. We had come from behind, significantly multiple times throughout the game. That's something that we had talked about as a group a lot throughout the year, was being able to fight through adversity, recognize when negative things are happening, find the ability to eliminate the negative momentum, get back onto the positive side of things, face struggle, face hard times, and bust down through the door of those types of situations. And so, to see them, fall behind, go down, take a lead, go down again, take a lead, go down again. And so it was this type of back and forth game where they had opportunity after opportunity to quit or to give up and just say, we did all we could. That's it. And they didn't do it. And they just kept coming back and kept coming back. Ended up having a walk-off win, a come from behind win to finish off, a sweep, a 4-game sweep of the series. Was a very, very great memory of mine, very fun memory, and a very proud memory too, because it was a culmination of things that we had talked about a lot throughout the year, was the ability to overcome negative momentum that will happen to you. And it's inevitable that those things are going to happen, and eliminating that, finding a way to get back onto the good side of things, and having the belief that you can come back, I think was huge for our team, huge for our program. And that team was a very good team. There were a lot of teams that we played early in the season. It was George Mason who ended up, being in a regional. Harvard was competing for the Ivy League championship. They had a couple of draft picks, that were on the mound from off that team. And so, we were playing some teams that weren't in Conference USA, but some really, really quality teams early on. So, it was fun to see our guys compete in that game in particular.
Coach, I want to ask you, I think, about the pitching. Something Jonny and Jacob and I kind of spoke about throughout the season was really the pitching. At times, it looked like it was a little bit inconsistent, especially with the bullpen towards the end of the games, where it seemed like you guys had a pretty clear lead and you guys would lose it. Just looking back at it now, what are some things maybe you could have done differently to not avoid that? Because obviously that's what they do on the field, but kind of notice that this is something that kind of happens to us, and it's at some point costs you the game.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we had to do, as a coaching staff, you have to evaluate your team in two different ways. Okay, you have to evaluate your team based on what you see in practice, and then you have to evaluate your team based on what you're going to see in the game. And because practice is going to let you know and teach you what your guys can do, what their ability level is, what you can expect out of them into the season. When you get into the game, you're going to figure out what they can actually do. And who can thrive under the pressure, and who can thrive in the competition, and what role can we put this guy in to be most successful. And someone that, that I think of right off the top of my head, is Ryan Kabarkis, and kind of how his role changed throughout the season. And so, so for us as a staff, we're learning about a team, that had obviously returning players from the year before. We're also learning about a team of some incoming pitchers that we had recruited and brought in a short amount of time. And so, we were evaluating, and also, ourselves trying to learn, who's best for this situation, who might be great into this scenario. And so, I think it was a learning process for us as a staff as well, which is always going to be the case. You're always going to be a constant learners of your own team. But I think finding, exactly the right roles for us was very important. I think something that every coach wants to do, and is very important for every coach, is to put your players in the best position for them to be successful. Obviously you want to coach them, you want to push them, you want to get everything you can out of them, but it's your job to make sure that, maybe someone's more successful hitting in the 2-hole. Maybe someone's more successful hitting in the 3-hole or the 4-hole, or someone's more successful out of the bullpen or as a starter. And so for us, trying to make sure we were finding guys to put them in the best positions for themselves to be successful was a learning process for us and our staff. And I think we kind of found that with Kabarkis, to the back third of the season, where he was maybe doing a little bit more of starting early in the season and really dominating, kind of in a 3 to 5 inning role. And I think maybe we found towards the back half of the season that, if we had a lead in the 7th or 8th inning, he was our go-to guy and he could bring it home for us. If there's 6 to 12 outs left in a game, there's not many better people, to win a baseball game late in pressure situations than Kabarkis would have been. And if he didn't get an opportunity to impact the game on Friday or Saturday, then hey, let's start him on Sunday and see how much we can get out of it. And so that's kind of an example of somebody I think back to and putting them into different situations. I know, Tibu, Angel Tiburcio had been pretty much a career bullpen guy. And I think for us, getting him into, a starter role was a fun opportunity for him. He really had a nice part of the season with several quality starts back to back. Had 1 or 2 outings there in the middle part that inflated his numbers a little bit. But, he was someone who, had been a certain guy for 4 years straight. And we came in and talked to him about, a different opportunity or a different role. And he seemed to really embrace it and thrive in it. He's a guy, his velo held up, over 5 or 6 innings. He didn't just blow it out for 1 or 2. And his velo was consistent throughout an extended pitch count. He was a strike thrower. He kind of pitched to contact earlier in counts, kept pitch counts down. And so, it just ended up, he's a guy that I think stereotypically you envision in the back end because he's a power arm. He's a big guy. He's got physicality. He's got a low to mid 90s fastball. He's got power stuff. And a lot of times you envision those people into the backside. But, I think for him, maybe a different way to attack the game on the mound was something that I think was a nice change for him and something he found success in as well. So.
Yeah, I was telling. I think it was the Western Kentucky game. It was either I think it was a Friday game where it was Tiburcio starting, and you went. I think this was the first time you'd done it where you went with Kabarkis, and I was telling Jonny, I really like this move. You're going with a 2-starter kind of mentality and 2 guys who are going to give you length, and obviously it worked. Ryan I think reached 40 RBIs that game. It was a great move there, and I think that's definitely something I would love to see moving forward. And I want to ask you in terms of pitching, obviously. New pitching coach Karsten Witten. Just talk to us a little bit about him and what he's bringing to the table for FIU.
Yeah, Carson's going to be a good one. Really excited about him being a part of our staff. Right away, he's made a huge impact. In recruiting. We've hired him very recently, and I'm in the office by myself right now because our terrific assistants are in Atlanta, Georgia, recruiting right now. Coach Duralaman and Coach Witten are there recruiting right now, finding some future Panthers on the road, grinding it out. So, Carson's already made a huge impact in recruiting. He's very familiar with the state of Florida. He came to work right away. The day he became official, we had depth charts, we had call lists, we had people we needed to get on. We talked about, our new needs and people he felt like could fit those needs. So he has totally jumped in without missing a beat right into the middle of the summer here. So he's making a huge impact on the recruiting side, assisting J-Rowe, on that side of things who does a fantastic job with it. But, he's going to be somebody you want to pitch for, and he's a fun guy in the recruiting process. He's a fun guy to pitch for. I think he likes to keep it creative. He likes to keep it fresh. He likes to change things up on the pitching side and make sure guys are staying excited about what they're doing, getting new ideas, different information, communicating it in different ways. He's, I think for me, it's very important to find someone in today's game who is a blend of the old school and the new school, because let's face it, there's nothing that's ever gonna, top old school mentality. That's just, it's as good as it gets. You got to have it, man. So you got to be able to have some competitiveness and some old school soul in your heart to play this great game. But there's a lot of data, there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of information out there right now that if you don't stay on top of, you're going to be missing the boat. You're going to be falling behind. And so, he's one of those guys who's the perfect age range to, be very knowledgeable, be able to coach, be able to understand what's important, what's not important, what we need to implement, what we don't need to worry about, on the cutting edge side of the game. And that's data, that's analytics. We can dive into it as much or as little as you want to, but there's a lot of very, very new age data that you can talk about now, that you can coach to, that you can recruit with, that you can develop with, and he's one of those guys that's got the blend of old school and new school. So I know our guys are going to really enjoy working with him. And he's an experienced guy. He's been at the college side at the highest level, on the pro side, and so we're really excited for him to be a part of it, and can't wait to see him get with our guys this fall.
Let's talk about the ones that they're throwing to the catchers, and that's the depth. I've been intrigued a lot. A guy like Brendan Roney Medina, Nick Patelli, and obviously incoming freshman Jacob Kenzu, who I've seen play here in Sanford, and the bat is really good for him. Talk about the depth for the catching side. It looks like a lot of really solid guys you have coming this year.
Yeah, sure. The catcher depth is always something you're going to be fortunate to have, because you're always a foul tip away from the next guy up. You're always, one wrong catch away from, the next guy being in there. So you always want to have depth, and listen, you play double headers, you play 5-game weeks, you have double midweeks, you're on the road, you travel. And so for us to keep our guys in great shape, you want to have, 2 or 3 guys that are rotating very frequently back there. We had those rotations last year, and, where Ronnie and Rooney were splitting a lot of the time. And, it kind of shifted the dynamic up. It shifted throughout the year based on, how guys were playing, who was healthy, things like that. Patelli's been a guy that's, he's a great team guy and does a really nice job defensively behind the plate, and someone that, we'll have back next year. So, and Jacob's a young one, and he's going to be talented. He's got the tools. But it's a very tough position, for young guys to impact immediately back there. So we're going to really make sure that we get him up to speed very quickly, get him communicating, get him vocal, make sure that, that everyone on the field knows that these guys behind the plate are running the show, from a defensive standpoint. And so, we've got great guys back there. We're going to have great competition behind the plate. And, as a coach, when you got, great people, talented kids, and, multiple guys that can get the job done, it's going to breed competition, which is ultimately going to be really healthy for our program and bring out the best in each of those guys as well. And, it's always a very special group. A lot of times these, catchers end up being some of the tightest knit guys on the team. They're their own little group in a way. And so it's really fun to see these guys. Something that I'll commend these guys on is their ability to compete with each other when ultimately one's playing at a time. There's one guy that catches every single day. And so one of you are going to play every single day. And so one person's going to get the majority of this time. But the way these guys encourage each other, the way they push each other, the way that they get along, I'm really proud of them. And it speaks a lot to the type of people they are, and not just the type of players they are.
Well, okay. I think it's time for a quick break, if you will. A Paws Up podcast news break. Of course, a quick look at some of the latest events in FIU athletics and just FIU in general. So let's start in the MLS, where former FIU Panther Stephen Afrifa made his first MLS start when he kicked off for Sporting Kansas City against Austin FC a few days ago. In total, he racked up 45 minutes of playtime in a 2-1 loss to Austin, but still, congrats to Afrifa for making his first ever start in the big leagues. Now, moving on over to the NFL, after 2 USFL championships for the Birmingham Stallions, Former FIU quarterback Alex Magoo has signed with the Green Bay Packers of the NFL. Magoo, who began his professional journey with the Seattle Seahawks before moving on to the USFL, has put up impressive stats in his USFL career, including a recent MVP trophy, and will look to join fellow Packer quarterback Jordan Love for Green Bay. And finally, a new class that students can enroll in was recently announced by FIU called MMC 3936 RVD Special Topics Messi and Miami Summary. The description of this class reads, an exploration of Lionel Messi's first season in Major League Soccer with Inter Miami and its impact across South Florida. Now, this just sounds like a fun class to me, so if it's something you're interested in, then I urge you to go check it out. And that was your news break. All right, so let's jump into some other topics for FIU baseball. Let's talk a bit about Ryan Guida, who is having a phenomenal summer over in the Valley League. I just got to know, Coach, have you been able to keep up with him and what he's been doing so far with the Valley League?
Yeah, the Gweeds, as everybody lovingly calls them, the Gweeds. I absolutely. I've talked to Ryan several times throughout the summer. Summer ball is an important part of development in our program, and he played summer ball last summer, and he's been a guy that's always hit no matter what. Everywhere he's ever been, whether it's high school, junior college, summer ball, FIU, he's always hit, and there's something to that. There's certain guys that just have the hit gene. And Guida certainly got it. So he's having a great summer. Been following his stats. He just capped it off with another, 4 for 5 night or something like that. So, and I think a grand slam in there. So, I've been keeping track with him. Him and Rooney are actually on the same summer team right now, so they're playing together. And having a good time, and both having really nice summers for us. So. Yeah, we like to certainly stay in touch and monitor our guys in a lot of these summer leagues throughout the country, which we do have guys kind of scattered all throughout in different parts of it. But he's having a great summer.
I'm going to cue in Jonny because he has to go to work for the River Rats real quick. So I'm going to let him ask his final questions.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask about maybe just a little bit about the players coming in. I know, maybe the recruits or other guys, maybe JUCO transfer, maybe talk a little about maybe the additions coming in to the program this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the fun parts for me is that our incomers, have a lot of diversity to them. And what I mean by that is they come from different parts of the country. They're all different ages right now. We got 1 or 2 grad transfers. We got 1 or 2 guys with 1 year of eligibility left from the transfer portal. We've got lots of great junior college players, and we've got high school players coming in. So, it's been a really fun recruiting class for us to put together with guys from all over the country, all different types of backgrounds. They're coming in at all different ages that have all kinds of different experiences, in the game. And so it's a fun part of it for us. Starting with our high school class, I can kind of break that down a little bit, but we've got, a pair of big body Pennsylvania arms that have come down, to pitch in the warm weather, and Evan Allwine and Tristan Dietrich. Those are 2 guys that, we feel great about coming into it. I know there's been some coverage on Tristan, and Tristan was, a draft pick recently. He certainly has plans to continue to show up at FIU. These guys are actually all on FIU's campus right now, going to summer school. And so, great program for them. But, for all intents and purposes, we're certainly counting on Tristan continuing to show up. We got a couple other Florida guys as well. Andrew Ildefonso is a guy from down here, and we got a Key West arm as well. And so we've got them from all over, and then the position player side of things, you talked about McKenzie a little bit, and we've got a couple local guys, some Florida guys. We got a really talented Miami kid by the name of Sammy Fisher, who we're very excited about, and Chris Wally, and we've actually had a 24 reclass into a 23 that showed up here now. Trayson Cameron's a very talented 2-way player, and for us, who can play shortstop and pitch a little bit as well. So, we're excited about a lot of these freshmen. And, on the position player side, through graduation or the portal, we've lost, a lot of our guys. We're losing people like, Alex Sanchi and Michael Rosario, on the position side, who were, huge pieces for us last year. And, fun backgrounds and stories in themselves, because, you look at Sanchi and, these are guys that started somewhere else that ended up finding a home at FIU and having fantastic careers. Sanchi was, Florida State commit out of high school, went there for a little bit. Obviously was here before my time, but, had a very nice career at FIU and really took a big jump in his last year here at FIU, and had a fantastic season. Really happy for him. And, Mikey Rosario's got a really unique story in his own right. And he was, at a junior college for a couple years and at the University of Miami for a couple years, and had 1 year left, and we got him here at FIU, and he's a guy that had a fantastic fifth year as well. So we've found the right people from the right situations that have come in and done a great job. So replacing some guys like that are going to take some very special players that we have coming in, and on the transfer side, we certainly have that. We've got a couple of really talented, JUCO position player transfer guys, some Florida guys, and some people from out of state as well. It's the same to go with the arms. We've gone a little bit all over the country to get some arms. We got a pair of Iowa kids coming down, guy from Maryland, guy from Florida, and so there's a lot of different people that'll be, coming down to play for us, and, putting together a really, really fun and what I feel like is a super talented roster right now.
And last thing I'll mention, Jaquan Smith, who I've seen so far, and he has the speed. He's been really fun to watch. But it's definitely an exciting class. That obviously you talk about a lot of the freshmen, and definitely last year only one true freshman. This year, with the full recruiting class, you really have the opportunity to really develop these young kids into the future of this program.
No question. I think, our program will always, be somewhere for transfers to land. I think we can be a destination school. I think we're a program that, that the sound of spending the last, 1, 2, or 3 years of their college career, getting a great college baseball experience, playing in an unbelievable conference, being outside 12 months out of the year, and getting a university experience like FIU in Miami, Florida is going to be something that's always attractive on the transfer side. So that's something that'll always be a part of our recruiting classes. But, really when you move ahead to the future, you really when you think about the future of the program, the culture of the program, and what you want your backbone to be, it will be high school players. It will be guys that from the time they're 15 or 16. Have relationships with the family, have seen them graduate, have seen them play summer ball, have seen them, come in as a freshman that looks like deer in headlights, and slowly watch them figure it out over the course of the next couple years until graduation. And, those are the guys that are fun to see go through the system and go through the process, so, certainly the high school players will be huge parts of our program now and forever. Over the last year, we were able to put together, a high school class that we're really excited about, that, can do a little bit of everything, and from all over, from Miami to Key West to, to Pennsylvania and everywhere in between. It's been a fun group to put together.
All righty. So I do want to ask you about Tristan, because obviously, as you mentioned, he was drafted by the Marlins. And it looked like, I think there was an article that came out pretty recently right after that, it looked like he was going to stay. Did you talk to him at all right after he got drafted, and what were those conversations like? And I assume his decision that he came to was to eventually, not sign with Miami and stay with you guys.
Yeah, our sport is so unique in the way that the draft can happen, the rules behind it, coming out of high school, things like that. And when we were in the recruiting process with Tristan, we knew that he was someone who would be a pro prospect, who would most likely have some of these opportunities and decisions to make down the road. And, really, I think you have to obviously start to make sure that you have, great relationships with the young man and his family. You want the family and the young man to understand, he's going to be taken care of, when he comes to FIU. He's going to be in good hands. He's going to be treated well. He's going to be coached, and he's going to be coached hard. He's going to get developed. He's going to get a great degree, out of this, which is not, that's not unique to any recruiting situation that we go to. But, when you have these conversations with the family, you can start to understand where their priorities are. Is their priority the draft? Is their priority, a signing bonus? Or is their priority, showing up to campus, having a great degree, developing to the best player you can possibly be. And then, over time, when you become that 21 or 22-year-old prospect, maybe the draft is better timed out for you at that point in time. So we had conversations with Tristan and his family kind of through even, obviously even after he committed. Once he was committed was really when we started to have more conversations on the professional side, because we knew he would be going through this. He's a talented guy with, a very, very high ceiling. And we weren't the only ones who were intrigued by the things he can do on the mound. And certainly when you see his body, the his delivery, the athleticism behind it, the low effort behind it, and you see a kid with that size and being left-handed with the fastball coming out the way it does, it's, you don't see it a lot. So we knew that would be something that we obviously wanted to communicate to. And at the end of the day, we don't want to push him or anyone into making decisions based on our biased, opinions of however we think they need to go about it. All we're looking for is to understand what their priorities are. And once we understand what their priorities are as a family, we can then help give advice and be resources and get them in touch with the right people and show them facts, show them statistics, behind, who makes it in the professional baseball, where are they coming from? When are they getting drafted? How long are they playing in the game? Are they, if you're drafted in this round, you have this percentage to make it to the big leagues, and then you have another percentage to make it to free agency. One of the things that I try and impress on a lot of the young men that are going through a draft process, especially out of high school, is that I want them to understand that the goal in your baseball career should not be to get drafted. That should not be your end goal. Okay. Your end goal should not be to make it to the big leagues. All right. Yeah, that should not be your end goal. Crazy or not, crazy as it seems to hear that, that's not your end goal. I tell guys what their end goal needs to be is to get drafted, make it to the big leagues, and come up and sign and agree to a free agent contract that will change their lives and their families' lives for the rest of their career and for the rest of their life. I said that should be your goal, and whatever decision you can make that helps better get you to that position, not just to get drafted, not just to make it to the big leagues, but to become a big leaguer, to sign a deal that changes your life and your family's life, and to become financially secure and a part of the Major League Baseball industry for many, many years to come. That should be your ultimate goal. And so we want to make sure we're providing them with as much information as possible. As what's the best way for you to get to that place? Is it to sign out of high school for a certain amount of money, or is it to go to college and, have a degree on the back end of things, and, make sure that you've developed as much as you possibly can mentally, physically. You're mature enough to go into professional baseball, because it is a very different game, and one that, I love pro ball. I love everything about it. I want guys to chase their dreams, but it is a very different game. There's a very different process behind it. And, I think too many times we look up and we say, the goal is to get drafted, or the goal is to make it to the big leagues. And I try and encourage them to see the big picture, and the goal should really be to change your life and to change your family's life with an amount of money and a contract and a deal, that you are an everyday big leaguer and you've made a career for yourself doing that.
Two more things in my end before we wrap up. I want to ask you again about Tristan, just a guy who's coming to you. He's now going to be a freshman. Just talk to us a little bit about Tristan, the player. Obviously, he was drafted, so he's pretty damn good just coming out of high school. And just where do you see his role with the pitching rotation or even the staff?
Yeah, I think the way that he projects right now, he projects as someone that can be a starting pitcher. He's someone who he's a 6'4" guy. Broad shoulders, long arms, long legs, very athletic mover for a left-handed guy of that size. Very effortless delivery. The fastball really jumps out of the hand. So he has the ability, to hold velocity, to maintain velocity. And can show you three above average pitches at any time between his fastball, sweep and slider that he has, and a nice changeup. So, when you project that on paper, that's got starting pitcher written all over it. But at the end of the day, that's projection right now. And so you have to, obviously make sure that we are producing, at the same time. And that'll be our job as coaches to make sure he's getting put into good situations and getting coached. that he's competing for opportunities like I know he will. He's a very competitive guy. Everything that he's going to have coming to him, he's going to want to earn it. I know that about him. And so, it's impossible not to think of him as a frontline starting guy. But what we'll always do is make sure that, a lot of times, players decide for themselves the roles that they're going to be in. If he shows us that he can be that type of guy, then we're going to give him the opportunity to be that type of guy. And we certainly hope that'll be the case for him.
And then my final question is, I want to ask you about Kevin Martin and Ruben Carpio. Those guys were honored, but they weren't seniors. Just if you have any information on them, and if there may be a possibility that they do return to the team.
Yeah, sorry. Could those two guys again? Who were they? I'm sorry.
Carpio and Kevin Martin.
Yeah, Kmart's coming back. He's already signed up and been accepted into a grad program here. And actually, the same with Ryan Kabarkas. I know, there's still, free agent signings possibilities, things like that. But, Kmart and Kabarkas are currently, signed up to start their grad degree. We're super excited to have him back. I think Ruben, he graduated, got his degree. I think he's in a place where he's going to move on to the professional side of life and go down that route, which of course we support, these guys in doing that. But right now, Kmart is someone that we're certainly, looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, it was a big part of your team, especially just entering relief roles whenever you have to start. So
he had a great back third of the season, man.
Yeah.
Like he did a great job starting for us. Really had some huge outings. And what's been fun to see that a lot of people probably don't know about is he carried that right into summer ball. I mean, if you go look at his summer numbers right now in the Appy League, I mean, he was fantastic. He's been lights out, through another 23 or 25 innings this summer and had a lot of really quality outings for, that summer team that he was a part of in the Appalachian League in Southern Virginia. So it was really great to see him, carry that momentum into the summertime and build off that success he had in the back part of spring because he had a great finish to the season and looking for another big year out of him.
Yeah. Anything on your end, Jake, before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to say, Coach, again, thanks so much for spending some time with us, talking a bit of baseball. And this last question, I'm actually going to leave this to you. I will give you the floor. If you have anything you'd like to say to the fans, the alumni, the players, anything about what to expect for 2020, for the next season and beyond, now would be the time.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I love opportunities like this to, have relaxed, long-ended conversations, about our program, about our players and dive into it because, I'm so blessed as a coach. I love this game. I'm a teacher at heart, so I get to teach this game. I get to be around our guys and I get to lead this program every single day. And just nothing, is better than getting up every day and having the opportunity to do that. But, when it comes to fans, when it comes to supporters, alumni, boosters, donors everywhere, all throughout the country in South Florida and anywhere in the world that we could be, is that what I'll tell you is that we need you. We need your support. We need you to show up at the stadium. We need any financial assistance that we can get. College baseball is more popular than ever. It's on TV more than ever. There's more fans at games than ever. There's more financial commitment to the sport than ever before. And for us to keep up, that's a huge part of the support and the fans and the people in the community here, and all the FIU alumni, people that love this university, people that love this program. Is your support continues to make our program better, and we're going to give it everything we have every single day as coaches. Our players will do exactly the same, and to continue to push our program forward. You guys are as big a part of anything that we do on the field, because your support is huge to us, and it's a very fun time to be a part of our college baseball game. I know the College World Series just had the highest viewership that I think it's ever had. And, every single regional is broadcasted. Conference tournaments are broadcasted. So it's a very exciting time to be a part of our game. And, your support along with what we're doing on the field and what our players are doing, it all goes together with pushing the program forward. So we support, everything that we can, get help from you guys is huge, crucial, and very appreciated.
Once again, Coach, thank you for joining us here. And I think this is where we're going to wrap it up. So from Jake, from Coach, and myself, we'll see you guys all next week. So pause up.